It's your girl, BUKKY on the BUKKY show. Hi guys, how you doing? It's another Wednesday evening. Anyways, yeah, it's another Wednesday evening. How you all doing? Hope you guys enjoyed last week episode. Talking about self doubt. I am inside. Like obviously, you guys know that I spoke about having self doubt regarding looking for a job here. So yeah, it's been the absolute ghetto. But guess what? We're surviving, we're breathing, we're living. We are the most important thing is I'm alive. As I told you all, yeah, I'm alive and I'm well. I hope you had a good day. I hope you had a great day. I hope you had a blessed day. To be honest, I'm recording by 10 p.m. on a Monday and I've had a long day. Like I just came in, started, opened my laptop. I was like, we have to do this today, tonight. I did not even eat. There's not much. I'm so invested in this, guys. Maga must pay. Okay, not Maga, but it gas to pay. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But what I keep saying that when the deals start rolling in, when the deals start rolling in, I'll do giveaway to the ones that are actually listening to my pod, not the ones that are not listening. anyways, guys. So the reason why I had to do like immediately I got home and I had to like do this pod is because this man, hey Jesus, he's so busy. Hey, hey. In fact, I had to do scheduling up. I'm like, oh God, just have our time. But yeah, is an amazing person that it was work that brought us together. We met at Noah's, and since then it has been an amazing journey. Is a great delight to to be honest to have him on this episode, particularly and on this pod. So I'm gonna pass the mic to my guest so that he can introduce himself.
Hi guys. I'm laughing because um it's my first time being on a podcast with Bukola. I've listened to our podcasts. I've listened to the podcast a couple times, and then I really really love the energy here, Bukola. Um, Also, the fact that we are recording at 10 p.m.
I know, right? It's really late. It's really late. But who are you and who is speaking? Because nobody knows your name.
Well. My name is Jide.
Jay.
Um, I breathe in and breathe out for a living. If that works for an identity. Um, I'm a creative director. I'm a filmmaker. I really love telling stories, and I am also a student of leadership. I love to learn and to grow and to see other people get better and become better versions of themselves. Yeah.
So that I have a particular, I don't want to say story, but if you were like, oh, because you're so driven, you're so this, you're such a like go getter. These are the people behind my back. I don't want to even it's lucky. I don't even want to be showing them to the world because I'm like these are people that are like because what exactly is your plan? These are the people that will come and say because yeah, sit down. Let us discuss the plan. Let us. These are the people that will make you think about see. This today is like my strategy. We're just like, oh yeah, let's talk about this. Let's talk about. I'm like, sometimes yeah, I'm like, there's some questions you even be asking. I'm like, oh, Jide, what's it better? But I'm like, this is good for your development. So I'm like, okay, I will figure it out. Let's talk about it. But yeah, Jide as is my God is a vital, organ in the body. Yeah, is a vital person in my life. I like
Interest,
that is.
interestingly, the color that is inspiring us now. UAL graduate.
You kidding? Pascal Ojo
Is
Kosibiko.
UAL or not? Is UAL? Wow.
It's Kuku UAL. But yes, God, that's so weird. But yeah, so I'm just gonna, without further ado, I'm glad to speak the English. So I'm gonna introduce the topic. Basically the topic is about self-identity. Who are you? Or I don't want to say who are you, because who are you seems very, I don't know, vague in a sense. But it's just more like, how will you describe yourself? So this conversation happened when, or this, well, basically the topic happened when I was having a conversation with a friend, and we are talking about something random. To be honest, I can't even remember what we are talking about. Then he asked me, "Oh, how would you describe yourself?" And I said, and I told myself, and I told him that, "Oh, I am an individual. I'm an individual." And he was like, "What do you mean you're an individual? You're a Yoruba girl." Oh yeah, yeah. I remember where the conversation started, but I don't want to bore you up. So, I said, "You're a Yoruba girl. You come from the Yoruba culture." This. I said, "See, Yoruba or not, the most important thing is at the first stage. This is my own. This was how I was talking to him. Um, that I am an individual." The other said, "Do you know what? That's even like a wrong way to describe myself." Then, and I said, "Oh, I am an individual in Christ Jesus." Yes, yeah, yeah, that's what I said. I said I'm an individual in Christ Jesus. He was like, "Oh, what do you mean? You're first a Yoruba person before you're into." I said, "Calm down." Look, I know it's motherfucker, but yeah, I was like, "Calm down, man," because I'm like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "See, Yoruba is not even that deep for." Yes, I came from the Yoruba lineage, and I'm a Nigerian, and all of those plenty yappa yappa. But I'm like, it's not really that deep for me. I- I'm an individual and I carry Jesus on my head. Those are the two things that I think, to be honest, are the most important things for me. But yes, that was how the conversation started. So then I was supposed to go to church on which day? On Sunday. I went to church, but I was supposed to go to my own Nigerian church. But for some reason, I felt like very random, very, very random. I was going on my way to church. Oh. Then there's this Catholic church on my way to church that I was like, "Do you know what? Just going to the church." Very random. I went into the church and I felt like I was like the youngest person there. The other people were very old and white, but old. And there were some blacks, but yeah, old, yeah. Emphasis on the word old. And in Catholic church, you would, at some point, you'd have to um come out for communion. And these are old people that are literally carrying um wheel wheelchair support and all of those things. And in my head, I'm like, what is going on? These people
Hmm.
have such belief that even irrespective of how very uncomfortable it is carrying all of those things around, they still carried it into the church. They carried it to go and kneel down for the communion. And people that could not stand up, the church basically walked around it, and they they the I think the priest came to give them. So people that obviously they could not stand. But the fact that they were even in church is just,
Mhm.
it's just crazy. Like what is this belief that you guys have so much that it's so, I don't know how to explain it. Did I say so evident also in your life? But yeah. So I just started thinking, the actual conversation we were supposed to have is imposter syndrome, which, to be fair, last week I already said that I was bringing a guest, and Jide was supposed to be the guest that will talk about it. But I felt this was too good to pass up, so that's why I was like, we need to talk about who you are, or how you identify yourself. So Jide, I've learned a lot of things. I'm basically giving you a lot of context of where I'm coming from. And so I'd like to know, I don't want to. The first question I basically want to ask is who you are. But before we get into the who you are, let's talk about how much of your background, like maybe your culture, your family, do you do you associate yourself with?
All right, I think really, really like brilliant question. But go back a bit to your story about the church. It's something quite interesting because it's a bit nostalgic for me. I grew up in the Anglican church, and that's something that usually done during Holy Communion, where for people that are aged, cannot walk, the priest would come, with the waver, and then the child give wine and serve them. And it just made me think about how inclusivity, in design, and all of those things has always been around. Um, I've not thought about it in that way before. You get? I'm just thinking about it now. So now, bringing back the question, I think the the conversation of identity, right, is something I find interesting, and the way I typically look at it is um we first identify as man, right? And then how do I define man, right? I like to believe that um man is first a spirit that has a soul that lives in the body. Man is first a spirit that has a soul that lives in the body. And when I talk about spirit, I'm usually thinking about it from the angle of, you know, the values that holds us together as human, right? Um, the God that we serve, right? I believe in a supreme being. Um, that spiritual dimension of us, and that when it comes to soul, I think about it in the perspective um of our mind, our soul, and then what again, and our will. So in terms of our mind, I sort of think about it from the angle of our ability to to imagine and also to remember. And basically, why I look at it from that angle is um ability to remember means that we are made up of where we are coming from, right? The memories that mold us or that shaped us from childhood. So for me, for example, um, I'm very Yorubaish, right? I can be very Yorubaish, and don't mind me. In fact, mind me, I don't really care because I grew up I grew up consuming a lot of Yoruba, and that. And when I look at the places I grew up, it's sort of what has shaped, how I look at life. Of course, there's that opportunity like to relearn and unlearn some things, right? But you can't really take away the past from someone. So, um, a lot of my childhood has shaped who I am today. I used to be a child who didn't have like toys or really a lot of playmates at first, and I really enjoy like creating fun for myself. Right. I think when I look at it, that creative part of me has always been around. Right. I used to mold things, just play with things and just create stuff. They probably didn't make sense to people that are older at that point. Right. But right now, I think it's something that has shaped me as well. Um I used to be a church boy. I still am, right? I think it sort of has shaped my faith, and all of that. So um you can't really like separate someone, right? You can't really separate someone from where they are coming from. You also cannot separate them from where they are going as well, like the vision that they are passionate about, or the things that that they put their minds they've set their minds to, right? You can't really separate a man from that. And our choices are also like things that you know that sort of defines our identity, because the decisions that we make, the choices that we make um in life as a way of shaping who we become, and then that's how people will be able to identify us. That's how we'll be able to identify ourselves. That's who we become, right? Our soul basically speak to the things that we're passionate about, the things that keeps us awake at night, and that and that and that. So they are basically the things that makes us up. Now the body, um, like when you see Bukola, you know this is Bukola, right? You can define somebody by what are they dark skin, you know are they short, are they tall, and all of that. So this entire makeup for me, I love to believe that you can't just look at someone and just look at them from just the outward, from how they look physically, right? We need to sort of look inward as much as we can, right? So, and I think for ourselves, it can be quite short. Is it short sighted, Bukola? Right? To look at somebody from just who they look, like what they are looking like outwardly, right? um we need to be able to discern or see people beyond just, or identify people beyond just who they are today or what we can say about them. So that's how I look at it.
Okay, so it's interesting that you said how we look at people because um I have an experience, and probably because I'm staying here in the UK. Living in Nigeria all my life, I never. It's not like I know the concept because I've watched movies, Hollywood. I know the concept of being a Black American or being an immigrant in a sense. I know the concept of it, but I didn't live in that reality.
Mm.
And when I was in Nigeria, I was just like a normal random person, to be honest. And I'm just living my life normally. But coming into the UK system, it's more like my blackness became so um real in my face. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just more like I could see that I'm actually black.
Mm.
It's become more evident. If I start talking about it, I don't think we'll leave here anytime soon. But to ask the question, so have you been in a situation whereby you are torn between your identity, two of your identity? Because when you were talking, you said you're a very Yoruba boy, right?
Mm.
And you also spoke about how you're Christian, you have a belief basically. So I'm
Yeah.
saying that have you been in a situation whereby your Yorubaism have
Mm.
conflicted with your belief system, or your belief system have conflicted with your Yorubaism? And how were you able to navigate that?
Hey, that's such a very sensitive conversation to have. So all right, so how do I answer this question? Um Church boy, right? Um but beyond being a church boy, I got to um begin to piece together the foundation of my faith quite early. Um, but the interesting thing is also that I got interested in like culture, you know, like the Yoruba culture quite early as well. And schooling is somewhere in Ile-Ife, sort of added to it. Do you get? I in my 100 level and 20 level ish, I took some Yoruba courses. I took some religion, is it real courses as well, right? And one thing that I learned to do is first to be open minded. Um, and that's why I say that it's sensitive, right? But what I've realized is at the core, who are you, right? Who are you at the core? Then being open minded helps you to like understand different things or what the culture and what your traditional culture or the Yoruba culture says, right? And what your faith says as well. And so for me, I've been able to draw the line in terms of what I believe. I've been able to make choices of, oh, this is what my faith says, right? This is what I'm learning from the Yoruba culture. And the beautiful thing about being open-minded is that you realize that some things that people criticize is basically out of sheer ignorance, right? I don't want to cite examples because I don't want this to necessarily be a fight between or a conversation between, Yoruba and Christianity or Yoruba and Islam, right? That's why I say it's a sensitive conversation. But I think there is need to be very open-minded, but to also know at your own core what are your values, what have you believed, what do you believe, and actually stick to it. For me, for example, I'm gonna pick what I've learned on what I've believed in the Bible, right? Or as a Christian, I'm gonna believe it. I'm gonna choose it over um what the what the tradition or what you I don't want to use the word tradition because what I've learned about culture. However, if I see a point where I think, oh, culture or what I'm learning about Yoruba, you know, if I find an aspect where it's sort of conflict, I'm gonna ask questions, right? It's gonna help me ask questions about my faith. And most times I get more clarity. You get um but what I believe is don't be too one-sided that you don't find that balance or you don't you fight it blind out of ignorance. So that's basically like how I approach it.
Okay. I really like what you said because, to be honest, a lot of us that actually just going through life, like we're not trying to really understand, e.g. Bukola, to be honest. I'm not trying to really understand the core of the culture, or where the line, or where I draw a line. I've drawn a line, but the truth is I drew a line, but I don't even know what line I'm drawing. Do you get? I know that there's something that my culture, I've done this, my culture, I've done that. I'm like, do you know what? You and your culture will be fine. I really do not care. Let me know that I'm just like, okay, this is what I believe in, and this is how I decide to see life. I don't want to go back. And but I understand the part of you have to look back to look the future, but at the same time, do I really have to look back? Can I just face the future and move forward? There are some questions that I, in as much as it's deep, I'm not disputing it. It's good to know where you're coming from, the kind of family you're coming from, and all of those things. Maybe those things will really open your mind. But then I ask myself the question: to what end? If I do that, what am I looking for? What truly? I ask myself the questions. I've never even said I want to go to book for, to be honest. But I just asked to what end. I'm too crazy about, like, life is too crazy right now to start looking at the back. Why not I just face the future
Mm.
or forward? But you said something which is, I to be honest, I don't know if I can answer the question me myself on this pod. Yeah,
Mm.
but I just want to, like, you say if you know who you are. So the question is, who are you?
Okay. I am who I am. I think that's the simplest answer because um
What do you
I'm,
mean you're who you are? That's very dicey and very diplomatic. Please, 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 please.
I'm going to break it down, right? Um, you are who you are at the end of the day, right? And there are two perspectives to who you are. There is who you say you are, right? And there's who other people say that you are, right? And sometimes it can conflict, sometimes you can check. You can actually like if you cross check notes, do you get um what I am who I am today is basically what you can see or what you know about me or what you can find out there, right? Or what so you yourself can probably say, okay, this is who I am. And I can choose to agree or not agree as well. Do you get? I can also take it as feedback that, oh, I thought this was who I am. I thought I'm a kind person, or I thought I'm a generous person. And now I'm getting to know that, oh, from Bukola's point of view, do you get? She thinks I'm not, right? Which is also, which can be fine. And sometimes can be a feedback, you know, to 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 take home and work on yourself and not say, no, that's how I am. That's how I am. Right. But at the end of the day, we are who we are. For me, I think I've tried to define to say a bit about myself, like earlier in the, at the beginning of the podcast. Um, Spirit wise, I'm a strong believer in God, right? Um, um, I believe I believe that love is important. That we should love God and we should love our neighbors, as ourselves. So that's I think that sort of speaks to, like, me from a spirit angle. I love to be. I can be very ambitious, or I can be a visionary, right? So I'm quite self driven. I love to learn. Um, um. Oh, these things are putting me on the spot, boy. I'm trying to explain as much as possible. Right. I love growth. I'm passionate about subject of leadership. How I knew I'm passionate about it is I can sometimes be in a space where people are talking and then I don't contribute. But the moment you start probably talking about subjects around leadership, personal development and all of that, um, I think these days I'm withdrawing a bit, right? And there's a reason for that. But you probably will find me get energetic more like when people that are passionate about football start talking about football, right? That's something that's like football for me, right? Um, what's it called? Um, is it 5 points? I keep forgetting my heights. I think I'm 5 points. If I'm not 5 point, I think I'm 5.9 or 5.89 or something. Um, I'm not dark in complexion, right? I'm somewhere in between. But I'm not chocolate either. I'm slim. Okay. I've mentioned my height. I recently started exploring low cuts. So I have beards.
You know, okay.
All right. So I think, but yeah, that's in some way. I think why I say that we are who we are is you can't really exhaust, like, a lot of things make it up that you can't, like, I'll be surprised if I'm able to put that in a bottle and wrap it and say this is who I am. And I think that's, how they say that when you marry somebody, for example, you think you know them, but you can't know them, like there's always new layer. Even you that you know yourself, you keep discovering yourself every day. Like we keep discovering a new version of ourselves. Like last year I realized that I can be adventurous, for example. I just think that I don't like to, you know, travel and be in places. But last year I realized that that's a lie. Like you remember that time when we were walking around in the UK? Like I don't know that I would typically do that in Lagos. Right.
Really?
Oh, so I can be like this. I can walk miles and just
I
wait.
think no, the UK would you guy you would walk in the UK. You would walk. It's like I don't know. It's embedded in
It's,
the
it's not
idea of living.
about
You
walking.
have to walk.
It's not just about walking. It's how my face probably lit up, or I'm excited to see somewhere new. Do you get?
Yes.
And, and we're like, you ask, okay, should we go to? I'm like, okay, let's go. Do you get? It's different when I'm in Lagos and you're okay, let's go. I'm like, maybe we can go tomorrow. Do you get? Um, there is that. I'm like, oh, so there's this version of yourself that, oh, that can be, that's interesting. Also in Nigeria as well, like I probably did my most travel in a year last year, right? I think almost every month I was traveling back to back to different parts of the country, and I'm like, oh, so I can be this. Of course, that was for work, but I saw a part of me that can actually enjoy being in new spaces, exploring new. I know that beyond just being a like um appreciating Yoruba culture. I love exploring other people's culture. Right? Oh, I can be in this and just observe and just learn and just taking, you know, data of, you know, observatory data. Do you get of an environment of a culture, and things like that fascinating. I'm like, okay, so I'm not just necessarily like a get inside person that just stay at home and just look at everything from social media. Like I can be that, intrigued, excited to see places. So that's something about me that I learned, you know, last year. I'm sure that there are other things I've learned about myself this year that I can't necessarily remember on this podcast. But yeah, I think everybody can relate to the fact that we keep discovering ourselves like every day, in layers and in layers and in layers.
Okay, so I want to ask about um so this might be a bit maybe when I say personal, a bit deep or whatnot, but if you do you think it's possible to remove all of these layers, the culture layer, the religion layer, whatever layers that we've had from obviously childhood up to now? If you're going to describe yourself as no, sorry, it's more like how would you describe yourself without those layers? Is it possible? Do you think it's possible?
I don't know that it's possible, right? I don't know that it's possible. Of course, we can always let go of the past, do you get? Um and take on like explore new things, right? Like explore new environments, explore you did used to watch anime before, right? You can unlearn and relearn. Do you get start watching cultivating new cultures, right? I think that's very much very, very possible, right? You didn't used to watch movies before or used to watch certain genre of movies. You didn't I've seen people recently told there's someone who recently told me that Jide, I want to start reading books. I didn't used to read books, like storybooks, novels. Now in circles where people are talking about, oh, this is a new novel that just came out. This book is what people are talking about. She she has something to say about it, right? So that's somebody learning something new, right? Um, like we can rediscover ourselves. We can change perspective. Can the past really go away? I don't know that it can 100%, right? But can we feed ourselves with new information in a way that probably so it? I don't know.
So to be honest, I don't necessarily think like what I mean is um you know how that's why I said it's maybe kind of deep. You know how they say on the deathbed when you're so obviously the the promises of God. I'm a Christian, so the promise of God is that I'm gonna grow old before we start talking about death and all of that thing. But yeah, but when you're on the deathbed, and
Mm.
what do you what is the most obviously you might not know, but if you're just going to like imagine an answer, what do you think would be like the most important thing for you at that moment? Because at that time, I don't think you'll be thinking, "Oh, I'm a Yoruba person,"
Oh, okay. Okay, I
or "I'm
think
kidding."
like what would legacy or what would be very important to me, right?
That point.
What would I possibly not want to regret? Is it something like that?
It's just more. Well, I don't know whether what is
Who
regret.
who would I want to be remembered for?
But is that a question? The question is more like, okay, let me give you an example. Or okay, so the question I asked, I said, if we humans we strip all of these identity, culture, layers, and like what then do we have?
Mm,
So I will obviously this is me chatting with ChatGPT, sorry, Claude. And Claude was like, okay, when you so again obviously I fed it some things that I had seen, which is the elderly people receiving communion and all of that. And so the response he gave was, when you watch those elderly people receiving communion, stripped of their career, their independence, their status, and sometimes even memory, which is true because all of those people were not thinking about, I have a job in whatever bag.
mhm,
So obviously, this AI is saying that what remain is love, what they teach towards, what they won't let go of. Maybe that was remain when everything else falls away. It's simply what you love and what loves you back. So
mm,
I, I'm there. I'm just making. I'm just thinking that is it really love, or maybe for them it's like they're still holding on to believe. But is it the love of God that they're holding on to, or their belief, or what they've just always known? I don't know. I'm just questioning it,
mm.
and that's what I'm kind of trying to ask you.
So I think the way I think about it, because sometimes I think about these things and I'm like, yo, today, um, I work I work in this field as a creative. I work in this company, and you know, I do this. People know me as this, or um, you know, all of that and that and that and that. Right? What is really important at the core, right? When all of those things are no longer there, right? Like what is really important, like when money is no longer, the big deal. Do you understand? Like what is really important? I think for me, first, I want to I want to die, right? Knowing that I will face God and I would I would it would say like welcome good and faithful servants, or that okay, I've actually lived, I've lived a life that, you know, glorified him, right? And also a life that expressed love, and care for other people. Um And for other people, I think it would be that I've been able to touch their lives or impact their lives through the things that I do, you know, in my own little way. I think that at the end of the day, you want to be remember. I want to be remembered, right? To have made impact, in my own little way. Somebody can say, "Hey, I I made better decisions out of life because I made this person," or and even in the work that we do, right? Because sometimes we don't think about the impact of the work that we do, on average people. So, somebody will say, "Hey, I encountered something that Jide created, and then my life was better for it. I made a better choice in life, because of that, or I made better decisions, So, I think that's really what is. I think beyond just say, "Oh, you're this, you're that, you're this," right? Um, I think that's more like legacy
Yeah.
that people remember you for. Um, and I remember this movie. What was the title of that movie? That they sang, "Where did I put my shoes? I am home, I am home." You say, "Put them
Oh
on."
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. That movie really explored like people whose lives who have died, and then just have pictures of them. And sometimes I think something happens where it's when the world never remembers them again, and it can actually be that movie put it in perspective for me, yeah, where you're like, oh, so it's possible that you're dead, but people remember you for something, and there can come a time where they probably stop remembering you, right? But for the moment where they remember, right? What would you be? What do you want to be known for? Right? What do you want to be identified? Since we are talking about identity, right? What do you want to be identified? Who do you want to be identified as? Right? Do you want to be identified as, oh, the man who turned the world upside down and made everybody experience misery till date, or the person who contributed in his own little way, yes, and in his own little corner, and made the world better beyond just trying to, pull money in your own bellies, or, just chase, some level of comfort for yourself and your family, and all of that. And then whatever we have done on earth, will God be happy? Do you get, like, how the Bible says, welcome good and faithful servant? Will he say that, welcome good and faithful servant, or welcome bad and unfaithful servant? So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, to be honest, at the end of the day, that's actually like very important as a Christian. Um, but I like to go back to, I know I'm taking most of your time, but yeah. Um, I like to go back to the question that I asked, which is, who are you? And I also like to go back to the question, no, not question, like an example that I gave, which was the conversation I had with my friend. And if I'm going to answer that question, if me as a person, as an individual, I don't know why I like that word individual. Anyways, as a person is going to answer that question of who are you, I think my answer will still remain I am an individual in Christ Jesus. I am a person that believes so much in the death and resurrection of Christ. And um, before I go into whether I'm a Yoruba or not, I am someone that carries a part of my parents' fears and
Mm.
more like their ambition, because there are places that my mom would like to be or go to. Like I don't want me, my lost you a lot of those things. You know how those Yoruba women to say. So like I think I carry that. It's part of who I am because I've always had it since like when I was like a child. So I've grown with it. It is part of me. Then I would not probably say um a black Yoruba Nigerian lady.
You are who you are at the end of the day, right? We are made up of the experiences that we have, right? So, for example, I don't know that there are a lot of people, my peers, like who, of course, they are sorry, like who experienced culture the way I experienced. Do you understand? Which is also fine. Like I meet a lot of people, my mates who can't speak Yoruba the way I can, you know, and I've met people that are even younger than me that speak better Yoruba than I am. Like, so for example, in school, there are people that grew up in the village, and you know that school is sort of like if you attended public school in universities in Nigeria, it's sort of a leveler, right? Where people are coming from, somebody is coming from a village you've not a village or but a place in a state you've not heard before, and you're like, oh, this place exists within Nigeria, and that's where they've lived most of their lives, where they can speak English, right? They speak Yoruba and they understand it in a way that you probably do not even have an idea of, right? And for most of us that grew up in Lagos, right, so if you understand Yoruba to a certain extent, like you really try. So it's not necessarily like you have to be able to relate. Like there was time I used to have this, is it sort of imposter syndrome, right? So let me give you a context. Let me give you context to it. Um, growing up, we didn't have television. Hmm? I grew up in a house where we didn't really have like television. So my grandmother later had television. I grew up, now I grew up in my grandmother's house, right? Um, my uncle had television, so that was where I would consume, um, you know, um, television media for a bit, right? So that means that there wasn't like a lot of access. So when my mates now are talking about certain movies, I can't relate to some of them. When they start talking about certain things, I can't relate, but there are some things I can relate to that they can't relate to as well,
Yeah.
right? But it used to be, I used to feel somehow before. I used to feel somehow before, right? Where I'm like, okay, somebody's asking, have you seen this? Have you seen that? I'm like, okay, then I now start judging myself, like, so what do you now know, right? Forgetting the fact that there are things that I know that they don't know as well, like that I've experienced that they haven't experienced as well, or they have not experienced as much as I have, right? And I think that's basically like how life is.
It's not like I don't like. I'm saying at the core of
Mm,
what I identify as, that is it.
mm.
I'm not saying that I don't identify as Yoruba. I'm a Yoruba girl.
Oh, you're a bad girl.
At the end of the day, like I'm a proper Yoruba girl. My children will speak Yoruba. Well, I don't know what I'm going to get married to, but irrespective of whoever I get married to, they will speak
Mm,
Yoruba. They'll know the culture. I'm just saying that this is, at the end of the day, this is like what I choose to focus my attention on, to be honest, not the others. I think that's that. But yeah, I going back to what you said, the imposter syndrome. Ah ha ha ha. Ha. We are still able to drag in the topic that I wanted to talk about into this.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I understand that there are a lot of things that, which is basically that's what life is all about, to be honest, because everybody have different experiences, and in as much as I would like to, like, everybody to think the way I think,
Mm,
it's not going to work because people have lived different lives
mhm,
and seen different things and basically be different people in different stages of their life. So at the end of the day, people, as you say, are who they are. I love
mm.
that.
And look, yeah, I don't want this podcast to come out and everything about like I think because we're laying a lot of emphasis about there's more to us than being Yoruba or being a piece.
But of
Yeah.
course, of course, of course, they were- like people have layers. Like, what the layers opo opo opo. So obviously, you mentioned it how you said like you don't even know things about yourself. Like
Mm,
it's when you're like in a situation where I are reacting differently to how you would normally react. That you'll be like, oh, I didn't know I had this in me. To get there was a friend of mine that was saying, oh, she didn't know that she was this patient. She was talking about she was wanting to do something and she was like, she didn't know she was this patient though about this thing. And normally she would have that boo and all of that, but now she's like cool, calm, and she can't do anything and all of that. So I guess I don't know. It's a bit vague. People would they are, but at the same time, I also understand it that people are who they are and people get to identify themselves in different capacity in how they would like to identify themselves. This guy is it not to be this influencer guy to be? I guess to be. I can't really remember the interview he was talking about, but he was saying something about how if he wants to introduce himself, he doesn't introduce himself as an influencer that is more than that. And it makes me question that even if I'm a maybe like a VP or a CEO of one amazing company, beautiful. How do I introduce myself to people? Do I say, "Hi, my name is Bukola, the CEO of this, that, that, that," or do I just say, "Hi, my name is Bukola. I'm a super human being, a simple human being." I don't know. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. This is just me. These are conversations in my head, to be honest, most of the time. I'm just thinking about it. A lot of us we drive our identity from our work, obviously, our culture, our family, our things that keeps us grounded, which I don't think is bad. To be honest, it is not. But at the same time, if somebody is gonna ask who are you, if 5 years would ask you who are you, would you be saying I'm a CEO? Or I don't know. As I said, These are questions I ask myself because they'll be like, "See your what? I don't care. Who are you as a person? Oh, I'm your mommy's friend. Oh yeah, mommy's friend." But yeah, I guess at the end of the day, people get to identify themselves the best way they can identify themselves. So,
Mhm.
do you have any final words to say?
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna um um give my final words based on what you said. I think it's very important that we look at ourselves deep, and I think this is where I started from as well, right? It's very important that we look at ourselves beyond where we're at now, right? Or what is most visible. I think it's important that we is it introspecting a lot, right? Yeah, it's very important that we introspect enough, a lot about ourselves, because if we sum up ourselves by who we are now, the work we do now, where we work now, right? What happens when those things shift? Imagine that somebody identified themselves and said, "Oh, the summation of themselves is that they are a typist," for example,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, who are they today? Do you get? So if you sum up yourself and say that, okay, yeah, tech bro today, what happens when tech bro is no longer the thing,
Yeah.
right? Because as humans we are naturally supposed to evolve, but I believe that our identity should come from things that are not movable, right? And those things are usually like very, very core, right? Our values rarely change. Um, okay, maybe our values can change, but our core beliefs, right? At the core, who are we, right? Beyond, and I think those are the things that should feed whatever is now on the surface or whatever is now like external, right? The internal, who we are on the inside should always feed who we are on the outside. And that's how we evolve. Like that's how we open up new layers of ourselves. Like there's a layer because there's something inside, right? So and that's basically what I think. Like, look at ourselves beyond now. Look at ourselves beyond what is present, what is physical, and actually introspect and go deeper and deeper and keep evolving. Thank you.
I love the particular word that you said, and I think I'll try to always remember it. You said who we are inside would always basically reflect on who we are outside or influence who we are outside.
Yeah.
That's actually true. That's really true. But yeah, I think that's it. Well, that's it. Oh yeah, so this is the end of the well, not the end, but basically the end of the conversation. So now we're gonna go into throwback songs. Okay, yeah, too much. Yes, we're going into throwback songs. And before I say my throwback, I'm gonna pass it to Jide. So Jide, what's your throwback songs?
So my throwback song is going to be Olufomi o.
Eh, my hat me that cool. Hey, early me love. My shanty racing man.
I like.
Do I see me? Oh, ah, ah. Oh, be for me. Hey, yeah. All for me by Star Plus. I mean, Star Plus.
I
Star.
don't know. Snap plus. Yeah.
Okay. Is it just that? Or do you have another one?
Okay. Should I let's do Infinity. Oh, go pesiti. Aye, wa umbo wa me.
Gay. Me, I don't really
Yeah.
know the song. But yeah,
Or
if
this my cactus.
those people, I love their songs actually, to be honest. I'm trying to remember the name of the song. Yeah.
That's them Olorioko.
Okay,
Olorioko.
Gloria.
Ah, what song so far for choreography and I
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, actually, yes. So Oluyoko is by Infinity and it came out in the year 2003. And Olufumi by Star Plus came out in the year 2017. Really? Actually, Olufumi felt like it was.
Yeah, it felt like it was longer than that. Or it is
Yeah.
like someone came out like 2006.
Yes.
No,
I'm
it,
wondering.
sorry, no, it can't be 2017. No way.
Okay. Sorry. It says that the song was released in 2003. Maybe all these remixed all those songs that came out in 2017. Anyways,
It's,
yes.
it's right.
2003. 2003. Anyway, so my own throwback song is, to be honest, I don't know, let me like, but we're gonna do Oh Look Ma Jehovah, Oh Look Ma, Oh
Uh,
Look Ma. I don't know, it's Timaya song. Oh
yeah.
Look
Oh,
Ma.
you gotta go, man.
Oh, go, go, ma. Oh, go, go, ma. Oh, go, go, ma. And yeah, the next song is by Tupac, Changes. And I think this kind of makes sense because I don't really know. Can I remember the lyrics for Tupac? But I know it. I like it.
Fuck. You can't
God,
remember.
something about changes. I see no changes waking up in the morning. I ask myself, is life worth living? Should I blast myself for being so basically it kind of tie into the whole identity thing and all of those things. In a sense, in a way.
That these guys I'm trying to remember as well. I love their music. Why do I forget now? They're like a group. Da 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 dee. Da dee da da dee. I dee da dee. Dee 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 doo.
Oh, Westlife.
Westlife. Da dee dee dee. Close to
Yeah.
the cliff.
Dee, dee.
Da dee.
Live my life for you. That's right, Basha.
I
For
don't-
you.
I can't remember.
But I don't wanna do anything. I wrote okay, well, I did not write, but I usually write all those songs.
Not the CD
Yeah.
at home and we just play the music and just enjoy life.
When we play West, I can't remember if we were playing Westlife. I know we had the CD, but I think maybe it was my brother that bought it or something. I don't. But my parents were not buying CDs. They're not buying Westlife CD. They were buying. Come and see that Lord is good. CD.
I think it was my brothers. I think it was my brother rather that had CD. I can still remember what that still looked like. I played life out of that. I played life out of that CD.
But yeah, but yeah,
Kings.
ah,
There's a song of in the album I'm Fly Without Wings as well.
everybody's looking for the something. Yeah, one thing that makes it all complete. Oh
We
yeah,
are
that's
putting
fine
we are
with
putting in first live mode now because I'm probably gonna be
the strangest places. Actually, this is the main song for this episode. This is the avenue it could be. Some fight in the face of their children. Somebody in the life's eyes. Come on. What can deny the joy it brings?
where you find a special place.
You're
Keep
flying
flying with the wind. Oh,
right. But yeah, fly without if anybody wants it, it's flying without wings by Westlife. Yeah, that's that. But thank you so much, Jide. This has been
thank
an
you for having me.
absolute, absolute delight and fun. I truly do hope you all listeners that are listening to this enjoyed it as much as enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed it because I really did enjoy it. I'm talking to my person. So of course I'm gonna enjoy it.
too. Please, thank you for inviting me, and I'm happy that this finally happened.
Yeah, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Now you can rest. But yes, thank you so much today. I truly, truly appreciate this. Obviously, I will still drag you. I will still drag you. Don't worry. You people are my persons. I will still drag you. People will still do more episodes. But yes, for now, thank you.
Okay, thank you too.
Say you're welcome. She's
You are
sauce.
welcome. And thank you too now. All right, yeah, we'll